Damn, what did BC just watch, man? Vikingo versus Kenny Omega, main event, AEW Dynamite last night. What did BC just watch? Renee Paquette said it best after the match. She said, I need a cigarette and a glass of wine after watching that. A glass? You need the whole bottle of wine. What did BC just witness? That was out of this world. BC's going to talk about that, man. Vikingo and Kenny Omega. I'm going to give you my thoughts on Dynamite as a whole, because I was able to catch most of that show last night. So I'm going to give you my just as amplified and as honest as I can be with you guys on Dynamite. The rights and the wrongs, what they're doing really good and what they have to fix, like yesterday. And speaking of, we're also, and real quick, it was so good to see Kenny Omega by himself last night. I mean, you almost forget the spectacle that is Kenny Omega. And it was so the entrance, the spectacle. Kenny Omega is still to BC a main event dude. He just has not been booked as such. The whole first year in AEW, he's in a tag team with Hangman Page. The last several months and beyond, he's in this trios division. He just never seemed to be the Omega that made a lot of us put our focus and attention over to New Japan several years ago. It's not the same Kenny Omega, and now Kenny will be the first person to tell you his body's a little bit broke down. He kind of leans on the Bucks a little bit. He kind of needs to be with others right now, and that's sad, because last night was another reminder that Kenny Omega is still one of those spectacles in pro wrestling. I just love when he's by himself and he feels like a main event player in AEW, because that is one of the that's one of those things that when AEW started and where we are today, 4 to 5 years later, it's one of those things that actually sucks, man, that Kenny Omega never felt like that dude. Even when he had the AEW title, he had a few titles at that time. It just didn't feel like that's the Kenny Omega that we thought we were going to get. And here we are, 2023, and he's playing around in the trios division. Last night, man, what a spectacle to see Kenny Omega again. We'll go over that, all the thoughts on that, and like I said, what I feel they're doing really good and what just should not have been on that show. And that's a good segue into another topic we're going to discuss in great length. I'm going to take some time in this amped up podcast for Thursday, March 23rd, 2023. I'm going to take some great lengths of time in this amped up podcast to talk about NXT and what they are doing wrong. Two major issues in NXT that need to be addressed, like yesterday, because they pulled 550,000 in viewership this week. And I know you say, BC, the World Baseball Classic dinged them up. I get it, trust me. USA versus Japan. BC was heavily into that as well, and it pulled 4 million plus viewers. Now, let's not act like it's the end of the world and they pulled 12 million viewers. It's 4 million, guys. We've seen NBA basketball actually clinch 3 million a couple of times and ding up AEW. We get it. It's a bigger issue. It's bigger than just the World Baseball Cup. It's bigger than US versus Japan in baseball. NXT, and I've noticed this for a while, and a lot of you guys actually say, well, BC, you cut it so much slack. You give it so many mulligans, but you absolutely rip apart Monday Night Raw. You rip apart Dynamite. But you let NXT go because it's under the guise of developmental. Well, you're going to want to stick around, because in this video, in this podcast, I'm not going to let it off the hook. And I'm not just going to swipe it underneath the rug. And I don't just give it so much slack. I allowed it to find its footing. The same thing I allowed AEW to do. You know, this is under HBK Shawn Michaels now. It's a whole different NXT, man. It's nothing like what we were used to, or what we've known in the past, right? So I allowed it to find its footing. That's what I was doing. But I mean, now, coming off of Roadblock, you're in WrestleMania season. You got Stand and Deliver WrestleMania Weekend next Saturday. There's no excuses or mulligans, man. You can't pull a 550, because what's next? 500,000, right? And then you're going to go to AEW Rampage numbers, which is the industry low. That's the lowest wrestling show you could possibly come across. And a WWE-backed show, I don't care if you call yourself developmental or not, a WWE-backed show on primetime television with a cable deal should not be playing around with 500,000 viewers. So, for those that say that I've been too easy on NXT, well, hold on, man. I'm going to give you two major points of problems that BC saw this past Tuesday, and I've been seeing. One of them is massive. It's going to take a while to reset your whole focal point of what NXT is. The other one should be fixed immediately. What am I talking about? BC will go over all of that, man. So my full, honest, amplified thoughts on AEW Dynamite this week and the big issues with NXT. Why are fans not giving it a chance? Or the ones that did, why did they go away in droves? We're going to talk about it all coming up. And that's a good segue, NXT, because our first topic is about a major wrestling debut next weekend at WrestleMania Night 1. That day is Stand and Deliver, and there is a massive debut, and it ties in with the final act, the final segment of Night 2 of WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. How does this massive debut on Saturday morning/afternoon tie in with what is going to happen when WrestleMania goes off the air Sunday night? BC's going to talk all about it. I ain't going to waste any more time. I'm going to down a lot of this coffee. We're going to come right back. We're going to get amplified, amped up with BC for Thursday, March 23rd, 2023. Let's get this shit rocking. Salud. And I want to start off with a big, massive wrestling debut next weekend. On night 1 of WrestleMania, that Saturday night. Earlier that day, /morning, depending on where you are in the world, like East Coast, I believe you're getting it very early. Stand and Deliver from NXT. This is going to be the Hail Mary for Triple H, Paul Levesque, and Shawn Michael Higginbottom. HBK. This is going to be their Hail Mary, man. Their last-ditch effort to try to get people to tune into this product. I really feel like this. I mean, this is the biggest stage. This is all the marbles, man. We're going to talk a little bit more about this coming up, but it's WrestleMania. I mean, if you don't pull a big audience or get interest for this NXT Stand and Deliver event, I don't know what makes you think you're going to get it going down the road for the rest of the year and beyond. But we'll talk more about that later. But this is a big event for this brand. And it is a massive wrestling debut. The Rock Dwayne Johnson's daughter, Simone Johnson, Ava Raine. I think they want to cut it to just Ava, correct? I don't think it's just Raine. That would be awkward. I think they just want to cut it to Ava. Ava Raine, I still call her. Simone Johnson. She'll be wrestling. It's a multi-person tag match with her group Schism. And obviously, you don't want to just throw her in the middle of the ocean in a sink or swim situation, right? Let's see what she's got. No, it's match number 1 for her. There's added pressure on her more than any regular debut for a wrestler, right? I mean, her father is the biggest Hollywood smash box office sensation we've ever seen. So yeah, there's added pressure. So you don't want to just put her in the middle of the ocean and go, let's see if you can swim to the shore, kid. No, you want to give her a life preserver, put that life jacket on her. You want to give her one of those little bubbly floaties, right? Give her one of those things that she can lean on. And that's what everybody else in this match will hopefully be. That's why they're putting her in a multi-person schmaz. I think it's beautifully done. I think it's a masterful way to debut her. And we wish her all the best. Now, you start to think like, wow, man, her father's probably going to be watching, right? I mean, that's obvious. Even though it's a time difference in other places, wherever he is in the world, he's going to be watching. Not so fast. Step further. BC's hearing, and this is from people that know way more inside those walls than BC does. BC is hearing that her father, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, is going to be at the arena to watch that match live. He will be there. He'll be giving her those words right before she goes out the curtain. You say, well, BC, that's her father, and he's tied to the business. That shouldn't be too shocking to you. You can say that, absolutely. But when you run a channel and you try to get information like this, confirmed or not, it still is shocking when you start to hear like, oh no, this is what we're hearing. Yeah, he is going to be there. We're already hearing rumblings around the Performance Center that Simone Johnson is expecting her father to be at the arena. So when you actually hear like it becomes more concrete, it does become kind of shocking to BC. Even having this channel more than 5 years and hearing a bunch of things from my people, my sources, when it becomes more concrete, it still shocks BC even to this day. Like, wow, it's actually happening. And that's because it's bigger than that, right? Okay, The Rock's going to be there for his daughter's first wrestling match on a big stage. That shouldn't be too shocking. But what it leads to, guys, that means all the speculation would be over. The Rock is in LA for WrestleMania. He is right there. Now, Stand and Deliver will not be at SoFi, right? It's not going to be in the stadium, right? So we're not going to take it too far and go, oh, he's literally in the building of WrestleMania. But he's right next door, basically. The Rock is going to be at the arena that is not far away from SoFi. That is pitting Dwayne Johnson, and his filming schedule is a wide open gap for WrestleMania. Coincidence? I think not. It is very absolutely now, not just very, it's absolutely more than possible that he now ties in to what happens when WrestleMania goes off the air Sunday night, night 2, Cody Rhodes versus Roman. It is very likely now that it is the Rock Dwayne Johnson that costs Roman the match. Now, does that set up, almost like a John Cena Rock, where they set up the matchup a year in advance, and then you waited a whole year to get to The Rock and John Cena? Does that set up WrestleMania 40, the big anniversary of WrestleMania next year? Rock, Roman. They wanted to do it this year, and The Rock pulled out. The word that was going around was he wasn't in-ring ready. But one of his right-hand men, Brian Gerwitz, who was one of his main writers for WWE, and then he took him over to $7 Productions. So Brian still works with The Rock. That's how tight they are. And Brian debunked that and said BS. So I think The Rock had other things in mind. And maybe LA would have made sense. He did have his schedule for filming wide open. We knew that was tied in with the XFL and promotion for the XFL. What better way than WrestleMania? I think The Rock was open to ideas and business talk for WrestleMania, and it just fell through. But this is a way to get to that WrestleMania 40 match with Roman and Rock. Belts are off Roman at that point. They go over to Cody, so you don't even have to worry about it being a title match or holding up the title picture, because Cody can go off and do whatever he's going to do with whoever down the road, man. The Gunthers. You could have Sami Zayn and Cody face versus face if you wanted to. Almost like Warrior Hogan face versus face WrestleMania 6. You can go so many ways with the titles, and then you just have this ultimate dream/grudge match, Roman Rock. And it can be set up Sunday night. Or you could just have him cost the match and no obligations after that. Rock doesn't want to commit to anything, and he's just going to fuck up Roman. And then Roman gets to go away for a minute. And it leaves the door open, right? It piques everybody's curiosity. The point is, I don't see how you could botch this. The Rock is going to be... Now we know The Rock's going to be there, right? That was the speculation. Is The Rock even going to be there to participate at WrestleMania 39 somehow? Get involved with Cody and Roman's match. Now we know he's going to be there, at least the night before, to watch his daughter's match the day before. Does he stick around for one extra night? The guy's got 2 fucking LA houses. Let's not act like he doesn't live there. Along with 5 other houses in 5 other states, but that's not the point. And a home in a fucking offshore island, I bet. A mansion. But let's not act like he doesn't live there. In multiple locations in LA. Of course, this opens the door, man. We don't want to speculate, but he's going to be there. You're telling me they're not going to cross hairs. They're not going to talk a little bit of shop. You sure you don't want to fucking come out for WrestleMania 39 Los Angeles? Rock says there's nothing like getting those goosebumps when he walks out that curtain. Guys, I'm telling you right now, do not be shocked if the Rock Dwayne Johnson shows up somehow in Cody and Roman's match. Now, some of you guys may not like that because you're saying Jey Uso should be the one to cost Roman the match. To BC, that doesn't make sense. He doesn't have that type of connection with Cody. I could see if it was Sami and Roman. But with Cody, I don't see how Jey Uso would be the deciding factor. I'm down with Jey splitting up from Roman, whoever turns on who, and getting that match, right? We'll run it back. And it'll be a fun feud and continuation to the storyline. But to cost Roman the match for Cody Rhodes, if you're telling me I have an option between Jey Uso and The Rock to cost Roman the match, I'm definitely going The Rock, man. First of all, the moment would be way more electrifying. What it leads to is a dream match that people like BC have been waiting for. If you haven't been, that's fine. But BC wants to see that match. I wanted to see it this year. I'll wait another year if I need to. In the Jey Uso storyline with Roman, that could continue a billion different ways. So if you can get The Rock now, you utilize it now. He's going to be there WrestleMania weekend to watch his daughter do her thing for the first time ever. You finalize a deal where you just say, bro, let's do this. The dude that's calling himself the tribal chief, the leader of your family for the last couple of years, let's put him in his place. There's only one dude at the top of the mountain that can do that. That's The Rock. He's the only guy above Roman right now. He's the real true tribal chief, while this tribal chief, per se, is going around saying he's the leader of the What happens when The Rock actually does show up? I mean, what better timing, man? You're still in the process of promoting XFL, by the way. So a WrestleMania appearance, yeah, that would be massive. I think this could tie into what we see at the end of WrestleMania Night 2, Sunday night. Don't be shocked if you see The Rock, man. Or they could go the simplistic route. Have the Usos somehow cause the distraction. Or maybe Jey turns on Roman at Mania, not going forward. They could go simplistic if they can't land The Rock. But he's there now. Now we know he's going to be at WrestleMania weekend. By the way, reports in the last 24 hours that Randy Orton they are flying Randy Orton into WrestleMania weekend, and there's a good chance he could be a part of the show. Who broke that to you guys? Hey, pat on the back, BC, huh? That looks like another check in the BC was right column, and I got to thank my fine people down in Florida, man. My people down there, my sources, they have been on fire as of late. And I was 2 full days ahead of that story. 2 days later, and now last night you started to hear about Randy Orton being at WrestleMania somehow. We can't confirm he'll be on camera, but they are flying him in. I broke that shit, didn't I? Who broke that shit? Was it me? I did break that, didn't I? Oh, they've been on fire. That ain't BC, man. I'm just relaying it. My people have been on fire, man. I probably should start calling myself a reporter, right? A journalist. But I love critiquing this shit more. I love to try to make pro wrestling better, so I will not deem myself a reporter ever. Or you can't never say ever in pro wrestling, but I don't want to go that route. But we'll see, man, right? But it's huge. It's really cool that The Rock's going to be there to watch his daughter. Or at least that's the word now. In Dwayne Johnson's world, you never know, I guess. He starts filming a movie tomorrow night. I'll Zoom you, baby girl, he tells his daughter, right? I'll Zoom you. I'll watch your match via Zoom. Tells Shawn Michaels to go out there with a fucking phone so he could watch it. But The Rock, man, he's in LA WrestleMania weekend. What? I said what? We'll see, man. All seriousness, though. Rock or not, man, to Simone Johnson, his daughter, man. I know she's been training really hard, really working hard to make this special. I don't expect her to see a lot of time, but I do expect several sequences that will be heavily rehearsed. Right now, she's probably in an NXT ring down in Florida, like really rehearsing her moves and spots. And that's fine, right? Snooki did that. We heard Snooki train 3 full weeks, her sequences. That's what you got to do. Logan Paul heavily rehearsed what he was going to do with Roman. And as long as it's presented well, that's all we ask for, man. Put the time and effort into it, man. Take it seriously. Love what you're doing. and do it good, and that'll reflect in your performance. So we really do wish Simone Johnson the very best next weekend. Her debut, The Rock's baby girl, is a baby girl no more. And she is officially entering that profession on the grandest stage she'll be debuting. Massive. Now I want to talk AEW, All Elite Wrestling Dynamite last night. Now before I go over Vikingo versus Omega, I don't even know what the fuck I just witnessed there, man. Wow. Dynamite as a whole, I'm actually going to give praise real quick about the top and bottom of this show. Start, finish, beginning, end. They started with a storyline last night. I'm mind-boggled that they're actually starting to listen. Or at least for 1 week, Tony Khan listened to people like BC. Don't just go to a match, man. Welcome everybody to Dynamite. Excalibur goes to 1,000 words in like 2.5 seconds because that's what Excalibur does. You don't understand a word he's saying because he talks so damn fast. And then we just start a wrestling match. And it's like the casual fan or the fan that's flipping through and they're like, do I want to watch Dynamite tonight? You're not giving them a reason to put the remote down, man. We're just starting a match out of the blue. And it's like, oh, okay, do I want to watch 2 hours of this? Start with a storyline, right? Captivate your audience from the jump. You have 2 hours to have wrestling matches. 2 full hours, basically. But start with something fun at the beginning, right? A little bit of a story to make people go, even if they don't even realize it, right? They just have the remote in their hand and they're like, as the story is unfolding the first few minutes of the show, they slowly but surely start lowering that remote down, and before you know it, they don't even know it. It's on the fucking sofa. It's on the table. It's on the floor. Who knows? But the remote is down. And they're actually like, oh shit, that's pretty interesting. I got to see what happens throughout the show to find out the answers. That's what a professional wrestling show should be. It used to always be that way. You start with a really fun story. You keep going back to it throughout the show. And at the end of the show, you have your culminating moment or situation unfold, right? And hopefully, if you do it correctly, it leaves a cliffhanger. So even though you got a little bit of the answers by the end of the night, you still have a major question mark that makes you have to tune in next week. It's called a cliffhanger. That's when pro wrestling is done correctly. Well, you basically had that last night, and it was in the most simplistic of ways. It wasn't overly dramatized. You weren't moving mountains for this. It was a simple whodunit storyline, right? Whodunit. A storyline in pro wrestling that has stood the test of time and has been around since the beginning of time. Whodunit. Fucking the Young Bucks got fucked up. They're being loaded into, or one of them, whatever it was, Nick, Matt, fucking Johnson, fucking Luigi, one of the Bucks gets loaded into an ambulance. Hangman Page is there with Omega. Hangman Page is actually looking concerned. Deep down, that's still his buddies, even with all the animosity. That's still his family in a way. And he's watching them get loaded. Omega's trying to show concern, but Don Callis is backing him up like, dude, you got your own match tonight. You can't be worried about these distractions. It's almost like Don Callis is trying to put in Omega's mind that maybe it was Hangman that did this. Right? Don Callis at that point had some motives, I felt, at the beginning. Hangman's looking concerned, and we don't know who the fuck actually attacked the Bucks. Right? And then we cut to Excalibur, and who was it? Taz, Shivani, the commentary, and then we go into the first match. That's all we're asking for, right? If you're a diehard AEW fan and you just want all your clangers and bangers, right? You want all your fucking Meltzer 7-star matches, and that's all you want. Screw the storylines. Fuck you storyline people, right? Why can't we all just have a piece of the pie, man? Why not just give... It takes 2 minutes at the start of the show. No harm, no foul. 2 minutes to start a really nice story. Or have a story that we can get interested into the whole next 2 hours. And then you guys get all your bangers and your clangers and your 7-star matches. Deal? Why can't we all get along and have a piece of the pie? Right? Why can we not have good stories with good matches? We can all have a piece of the pie if done correctly, man. I love how they started with a story. And you kept going back throughout the night. Who did this to the Young Bucks? And you find out slowly but surely that it's probably the Blackpool Combat Club, right? It's probably Mox and Claudio in Wheeler, Utah. It's probably them, just the way that they're just wreaking havoc. And by the end of the show, after, and we'll go over the main event for sure in a couple of minutes, or in a minute, but after that main event match with Vikingo and Omega, you have the Combat Club come out and attack Omega. And it was very emotionally done because Shivani hit the ring and was talking to Omega, who had just beaten Vikingo. Just a crazy match. And Omega was like, I don't know how much longer I can do this for you guys, but I'm going to keep... And then he just gets jumped by the Combat Club. So that's what made it emotional. And then you hear the sirens of the ambulance. Now, a lot of people might think it's hokey pokey. Oh, we could have done without the ambulance. Just hit Hangman's music. Or show him driving up without sound effects. I don't mind that at all. The WWE has done this so many times. I love it, man. It makes people go, what the fuck is that? Oh, shit. Is somebody coming up in the fucking ambulance, bro? We've seen this a million times, and I still love it. So the siren starts to go. Whether you like the siren or not, okay, that's in the eye of the beholder. But you can't tell me that the visual of the ambulance driving up and you see Hangman Page, cowboy shit driving. I'm like, all right, if this was the Bucks driving, I don't believe it. It's just, it's too hokey pokey. Hangman, I believe it, man. He does have this I don't give a shit attitude. And whether you like Hangman or not, the dude has shown you over the years that he is willing to just step up face to face and rock out. So you believe that he is not putting up with this shit. He took the fucking ambulance and he drove back to the arena a la Stone Cold. So I loved it, man. The ambulance pulls. This is what wrestling is. It's wild. It's out of the box, man. You can leave that in WWE. We're real wrestling here. We're real sports in AEW. Stop. Please shut up. Honestly, you're the reason why the ratings are going backwards. Wrestling is sports entertainment. Sports entertainment is wrestling. You can't have one without the other. Why we fell in love with wrestling, why wrestling is still alive today, is because of the out-of-the-box, out-of-the-norm, wacky Wabaka shit. Like stealing an ambulance from a hospital and driving back to the arena as if you aren't going to have an army of cop cars following you. But you can suspend that disbelief if it fits a character. I felt it fit Hangman, and that's what I mean. If it was Matt Jackson or Nick Jackson driving, or his cousin Nick Johnson, if they were driving, right, it takes you out a little bit. But it was a Hangman, and it was like, oh, fuck, man. He gets out, fucking cowboy boots, slamming the concrete. I don't know what he had in his hand, a steel pipe, some shit was in his hand. And you know he means business. You pause on that. You give it a few beats, and all of a sudden, cue Hangman's music. I thought it was so well done. He hits the ring. Combat Club take off, and Don Callis pretty much just falls to the mat. And when Omega turns around, he thinks that, and Callis is telling him that Hangman did this. Omega thinks that Hangman actually threw Don Callis, who's Omega's right-hand man, not just manager. They're really close. Threw him to the ground or decked him or something. Hangman's like, I didn't do shit to him. What the I'm looking at the Combat Club. He just fell. And Omega's like, why do you do this shit, man? Why? You can't just come out and help. You got to take him out. Why? What are you trying to prove? You can read his lips. He's pissed. And Omega just leaves the ring with Callis. Like, dude, I want to thank you for helping me, but then you take out my right hand. I'm like, what the fuck, man? And that's how we actually ended the show. Hangman's like, I didn't do any of that. And it also raises the question. You think it's the Combat Club that took out the Young Bucks. You would think that, even if you're Kenny Omega. But with Don Callis pointing the finger at Hangman that he just took him out, now Don Callis can actually put into Omega's dome piece that maybe it was still Hangman that took out the Young Bucks. I hope you guys are keeping track. There's layers to a story. That's all we're asking for, bro. You didn't even have to move mountains. It was a simplistic whodunit story, right? Whodunit. And it just keeps your audience more interested. It intrigues them. And it maybe a lot of them at the end of that show, they want to see what happens with Hangman and Omega now and the Bucks and how they're going to play this out. Maybe people won't give a shit. But it was at least really awesome to see them start a story. And you can say, well, BC, this story has been ongoing. This was just another layer to it. Whatever, guys. You started a story at the start of the show. You alluded to it, went back to it, added layers throughout the night, and then in the last segment of the night, you really hit him with the culminating moment. And it left a bit of a cliffhanger, a big question mark for next week. I love that. It's all I ever asked. For anybody that says I'm too harsh on AEW, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm trying to help them. They've been going backwards in the ratings. 850s the past month. Except for the one time they hit 1 million, the big announcement by Tony Khan, which was just about a reality show. Every other rating has been around 850. 833, 824. And all I'm saying is, this is what will help you in the long run. I don't know if this helps the rating instantly because a lot of people have already been tuning out, right? It's the Monday Night Raw. Same thing, Monday Night Raw effect. A lot of people started tuning out for so many years that it wasn't just football. After Monday Night Football left the airwaves this year, Monday Night Raw is still struggling to hit 1.7s and 1.8s. And the reason for that isn't because it doesn't have a pulse. It finally does with some good storylines. But it's because so many people left and they don't know that they should come back because there's stories finally. Just because WWE started to give a shit doesn't mean the fans know it or want to come back yet. Maybe they'll never come back. But Monday Night Raw has shown signs of life over the past couple of months. Why are the ratings not reflecting that? Well, it's because so many people have been gone for so long. Just because WWE decided to care, they're going to have to work 10 times as hard now to get them back. That's what BC has been saying for months. WWE, for years really, WWE has to be careful because they're doing so bad television-wise that by the time they start doing good, they're going to have to work 10, 20 times as hard to dig themselves out of the hole that they dug themselves. AEW is starting to do that. So much time has passed with mediocre shows. Their own tried and true started walking away. 950 peak audience to 850,000. So how many of those people knew enough to watch last night? The main event, one half, was with a guy not many people knew about. I saw a statistic where his social media following was only at 7,000 followers on the Twitter machine. 7,000 for a guy that's going to be in the primetime main event of Dynamite. And that same person told me that he gained like 3. He's at like 10,000 now or something on the social machine. So my point is, most people in the world don't know what a Vikingo is. So I don't know if this is going to help the ratings drastically for last night. But I know that if you do this consistently, you will see an improvement. I like that. Now, that's top and bottom, guys. And throughout the show, they went back to that one storyline a little bit with BCC, Blackpool Combat Club. The rest of the show was mediocre, though, and that does not help your rating. That does not help your rating. Guys, Adam Cole, his opponent for next week, was announced. You know who it is? Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia is on Dynamite every week. FTR, they'd have to pay Tony Khan to get on AEW Dynamite in 2022 when they were one of the hottest tag teams in the world. Wardlow, you never see this dude. Once every month, maybe. Daniel Garcia every week. And he's the one who comes out and cuts a promo on Adam Cole, baby. Come on, man. Stu Grayson taking a quick L to Mox. Sky Blue taking an L to Tony Storm. Blade, Butcher, and Kip Sabian in a 6-man tag match. And you can go down the line. I'm sure I'm missing out on more as well. All these, I mean, there's so many names that it's like, what are you doing? Where's Jamie Hayter? Why is Jamie Hayter not in something special last night? Ricky Starks had all the momentum in the world. Ricky Starks was a non-factor. He cut a quick backstage promo with Renee. I don't even care anymore. I just want Jericho one-on-one or something. I forgot what he said. And he kept saying 3 separate times, I don't even care anymore. I wouldn't blame him. Tony Khan literally just simmered down that boiling pot of water. It's the pot of water that's boiling analogy, right? The water is finally boiling, and instead of putting the pasta in it, Tony Khan put the lid on top of the boiling water. He'd never even put the pasta in. Nothing is cooking. Water is just boiling. And now you're just covering that shit. Why not utilize Ricky Starks when he has the momentum? It's the same reason Wardlow was just butchered 4 separate times. Wardlow just got powerbombed, not even through a platform a couple of weeks ago, just on top of it, and he couldn't even get up at the count of 10, and then he's been gone ever since. That does not sound like a beast to me. That doesn't sound like a larger-than-life character that we all thought Wardlow was going to be. It's botched booking. Just a weird Dynamite aside from that big storyline last night. So those are my positives for Dynamite, and those are my negatives. The rest of the show was absolutely mediocre and even less. FTR is putting their AEW careers on the line if they cannot beat the Gun Club. That's interesting because that's going to tell you if they signed or not, obviously. If FTR can win this match, obviously they signed with AEW, and if they lose, bye-bye, all the way to WWE. We're going to find out. So that's a big topic. But that's my thoughts on AEW Dynamite. Now I want to discuss that main event with Vikingo and Omega. Wow. Again, Renee Paquette said it best. I need a cigarette and a glass of wine after that match. I needed the whole fucking bottle if that's the case. I didn't know too much about Vikingo like a lot of you guys. Again, what my buddy showed me was that he had like 7,000 people on his social. That's actually not a lot when you're a pro wrestler and you're heavy on social. So that tells you, gives you a glimpse that not a lot of people knew about the dude, right? I mean, that's pretty apparent just by AEW's own fan base asking who, when earlier this week Tony Khan said that was going to be the main event. And you know, a lot of AEW diehards are like, find out who. Start Googling, start doing the research. Don't take away our dream match. And then people mock people for saying who and asking who this is. Guys, stop. Get off your fucking high horse. Tony Khan made a match out of nowhere, called it a dream match with a dude that most of the world of pro wrestling did not know. Just because you do doesn't make you better than anyone else. It just means you have a lot more time on your hands. That's not a good thing. Just because you know every wrestler in the world and every promotion doesn't make you better than people. Get off your high horse. It actually makes you look like a geek. And then these people are like, you don't know who this is? You better know, man, because Tony Khan is making dream matches, and you're going to be left in the dark if you don't know who these people are. Guy, you're on primetime television. You're the closest thing to competition to Vince McMahon. You have 160 people on your roster to utilize. A lot of them are not even being showcased on TV. Your champion, Jamie Hayter, Wardlow, your supposed beast. FTR can never get TV time in 2022 anyway, and even now, aside from last night, to the point where they may have to leave AEW. You have all this talent at home that can't even get TV time. The Lance Archers and such that are complaining on social because they can't get TV time. And Tony Khan constantly brings in all of these new people, man. Action Andretti is getting a big W over Chris Jericho. You got fucking the Martins in TV, right? Dante and Darius are on TV every week. Dan Garcia. You got Vikingo. And Tony Khan refuses to take the talent that he has, especially when they have momentum, and utilize them properly. No. He's like a person with the attention span of a fucking Sonic the Hedgehog. He's just on to the next coin nonstop. This isn't about how many coins you can collect. Take a breath. Take a moment. Chill, dude. Look at your roster. Utilize them. You don't have to constantly be on the lookout for the next dream match or the next fucking match that's going to make everybody go, wow. You want to make television and wrestling that is going to stay consistent and grow. You have 160 people on your roster. The roster keeps on growing by the day. Every day, it seems like somebody is officially now all elite. And we keep every week having to play a game of who? Who's going to be in the main event? Who's debuting on fucking All Elite Wrestling? Dynamite? And the tried and trues are like, how do you not know who this person is? Do your homework. It's not Tony's job to play video packages or give you a 3-week notice. It's your job as a wrestling fan to know every wrestler on the planet. So that's my one caveat before I go over this match. Everybody, get off your fucking high horse. Even BC didn't know a lot about Vikingo. I saw some clips, obviously. I think I saw one full match in the past, but I didn't know a lot about him. So like everybody, okay, we learned last night. All right, but we shouldn't have to do that. It's nobody's fault if they don't know a lot about him. Relax. Get off your high horse. Now to the match itself. Okay, this dude is another level. It's like if Ricochet and Super Ricochet and Ultra Ricochet and Mega Ricochet all had a baby, it would probably be Vikingo. That's all. Best way. This dude has you in awe from top to bottom, start to finish, beginning to end of this match. Absolutely. It was... I mean, if you're in attendance, you're going through all the chants, right? This is awesome! Fight forever! Holy shit! Right, you're doing all the chants, and I believe they did last night, too. They went through all of them. And if you're watching at home, you're literally watching, I mean, choreographed gymnastics at its peak. And that's not shade. I'm telling you right now, I've never seen anything like what I've seen with Vikingo. The problem, guys, and there's a massive issue here. It's the same thing with Ricochet, just on even another level. Okay, he's even better than Ricochet by far, by far. I don't know the dude's age. I don't know if he's younger, how many years he's been in the business, but he's by far better than Ricochet. Not trying to compare, but that's the closest comparison we could possibly do. I don't want to put him in the Pentas situation, Ray Phoenix's. I think of like the last person that really captivated everybody's attention with the gymnastics on another level was Ricochet. I'm talking like big stage type shit. And this dude's on a whole nother level, but it's the problem with Ricochet. If you don't check off every other box, if you're not given good creative, right, and you're not booked properly, you just become another spoke on the wheel. It becomes one of those situations where, okay, we saw that, what next? Ricochet's whole shtick is old now. When Ricochet does a shooting star, a 450, a crazy doohickey dive over the top rope and onto the outside on the 10 individuals that are waiting there with their arms wide open like they're about to catch the bouquet from the bride at a wedding. You know the spot whenever 10 dudes are out there holding their arms open, because that is what makes pro wrestling realistic. When 10 dudes are holding their arms out for a guy to do his spot. Can't stand that. But when Ricochet does all that, it was ooh and ah for a while. Now, it's just a passing moment. A 619 from Rey Mysterio, which takes a fraction of the energy and intensity, just the ability, a fraction. A 619 has people on their feet and more in awe than what Ricochet does today. And that's because the act ran cold. It got stale. How far can you go, right? Vince McMahon once was asked, are we going to see anything like the Attitude Era ever again? And Vince McMahon's answer, I'll never forget it. He said, well, after you chase somebody around with a chainsaw, how much farther can you go? And of course, he's talking about Chainsaw Charlie, Terry Funk, Mick Foley when they chased around the New Age Outlaws, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, Jesse James. And it always made me think, like, he kind of has a point, right? I mean, you're chasing somebody with a chainsaw. You're basically, how much more can you fucking go further? And it was like that with the gymnastics era that we're in today, right? Ricochet oohed and awed everybody with his moveset, his gymnastics. And that's cool. But over time, if you're not checking off every other box, you're going to be a one-trick pony. Your gymnastics is all you're going to have, and that's going to get old. If you can't carry a storyline on your back, if you can't cut that promo, if you're not given proper creativity and booking. Well, he was not given proper creativity and booking. That's X1. X2, he's not good on the microphone. Ricochet cannot cut promos. He's absolutely horrible, actually, and it's sad because we were hoping for better. So that's an X. Number 3, he can't. What he does get, he cannot put a storyline on his back. It's not believable. It doesn't connect with the audience. So he doesn't check off every other box. And what happened with Ricochet, guys? He's just another spoke on the wheel in WWE. Tagging up, I believe, still with Braun Strowman. Nobody cares. What I'm saying, guys, is I have to see more of Vikingo. I hope he's not a one-trick pony. I hope he can cut promos. I haven't heard 2, 3, 4, 6-minute promos from Vikingo. I have not heard that yet. Maybe he can. Maybe he's had good creativity in booking AAA and he's rocking it, right? Maybe he can put storylines on his back. I'm hoping he checks off every other box because I like what I saw from the kid last night. I like it. If he cannot check off every other box, he just becomes another gymnast. He is only just another glorified gymnast in the world of professional wrestling. And we have enough gymnasts. He's just the best gymnast. But if he can check off every box, Vikingo just gained another fan in BC Amplified. Or if not a fan, I don't want to use that loosely. I'm not a fan of many in the business. I try to keep that separate. But he has somebody who will be watching his matches, most of, if not all. And what he's into. Promos, storylines, I'll be watching vividly. Gained a viewer. But if he does not, he's just another Ricochet, just on another level. He's a better Ricochet. Right? I always joke about, like, where do we go after 450s and all these numbers, right? Like, what are we going to get? A 720 Hurricanrana Plancha, inadverted Super Summer Smash Slam from the top row? Like, I always joke, right? What are we going to get? A 720, 860 Hurricanrana inadverted dive? And last night, I like somebody called it like a 630 plancha. I don't even know what they called it. We're in the sixes now. How many times this guy rotated through the table? I couldn't even fucking count. This guy is amazing, but that alone will not make him a good professional wrestler. I hope that's the fairest critique I can give, guys, and I hope that fans of Vikingo, fans of AEW or AAA, wherever you see this dude perform, I hope you understand. And I don't see how you couldn't even agree. You would have to agree, right? You would have to check off every box to be considered a good and even great professional wrestler. And we're hoping this guy does that. But if you don't, you wind up not a good pro wrestler. You don't check off every box. I'll tell you what I liked about this guy on top of it. It wasn't just flips and dives. He really sold shit. Like when he did that first splash over the top rope right into fucking Omega, he sold his own ribs being broken, basically. I love that. And he was so sincere about it. You believe that he just fucked up internal organs, bro. And throughout the night, everything, even when he was hitting his own moves, it looked like it took himself out for a moment. I like a lot of what I saw. That might shock you, guys. Wow, BC's praising this guy. Yeah. I just hope he checks off every other box. Because a year, 2, especially 3 years down the road, when we've been seeing all these moves time after time after time after time, he's just another spoke on the wheel. It becomes less and less special, guys. That's what's going to eventually happen. And you don't have to put your own life on the line or somebody else's or do some wacky shit. A 619 will get you an ovation, which is just a fraction of that. You don't have to do all of that. You know, you become desensitized from it. You become, it's like a punch and a kick. A punch, a kick, and a 720 inadverted plancha 640 dive. It'll get the same reaction if you just give a punch and a kick and a chop. So that's my concern. Listen, for that night, for last night, wow. Right? A lot of us didn't know that much about what we were about to witness. He took it to another level, and I think what made BC like it so much more, and I know for a fact this is the case, and I just mentioned this, the fact that he was checking off all the other boxes in the ring. He was selling. I was believing for the most part. There was a few spots where Omega had this set up for a little too long, while Vikingo set up his top rope fucking spot, and Omega was kind of waiting a little bit too long. There was one moment where Omega had to like crawl to the table outside. I wish that was done a little bit better. It looked like he was just crawling to it like it was a bed. He had a long day at work. He's crawling into his bed. He positions himself really nice and cuddly to take a splash. So there was things that absolutely took me out, but few and far in between, guys. A lot of what was done in a flippity-dippity dive match, I thought was good. I just hope there's not too many more ways I can say it. That is my as amplified and honest thoughts as I can possibly give to you guys, man. That's my initial thoughts watching this full main event match. And in the future, I don't hold this back. I hope that Tony Khan does not do this often. He really has to concentrate on his talent, guys. There's a lot of people that get momentum, and Tony Khan totally puts the lid on the boiling water without letting the pasta cook. He doesn't even put the pasta. He puts the lid on the top of the boiling water. What is that going to do? Just boil the water more? It's ready to cook. Wardlow has been ready to cook 4 times. You couldn't put him in any more obscurity. Ricky Starks, look at him last night, man. Jamie Hayter, I don't even know if she was used. I don't believe so. Acclaimed? They were so hot at one point. Recently, the Acclaimed is an afterthought. FTR has been an afterthought to the point where they may actually leave AEW. I wouldn't be that shocked. And Tony Khan is just on to the next. Ratings keep going backwards, and he's on to the next. He doesn't realize. Take a breath. Stop for a second. Look at your roster. Start doing things correctly. But for that night, man, and I love the people that are like, fuck your stories. That's what I want in my wrestling, right? Because the Vikingo Omega match was something special for what it was. But stop. You can't just... Your show will never last if you just have that nonstop for 2 hours. You have to have stories. Again, what I started with this whole review of AEW, not really a review, my thoughts on AEW Dynamite. I hope you guys understand that how they started the night and how they ended it, that's what I would like to see more of, and I know a lot of fans would. And if you do this consistently, your ratings will start to go up. I promise you, I will not steer you wrong. And you can still have most of the 2 hours to have all your clangers and your bangers and your 7-star Meltzer Boy matches. You still have enough time for that. But put storylines in, man. It adds so much. But my final thoughts on Vikingo, wow, bro, what the fuck was that? And if he can carry storylines on his back, if they give him good creative, if he can cut good promos, this could be special. If he's just about the gymnastics, he'll be another Ricochet within 12 months' time, because we would have seen all of his big moves time after time after time after time, and it'll wear itself out. Wrestling's more than just moves. So I hope that's not the case. That's my thoughts on that. Guys, we've went a while, almost an hour just on those topics. And BC's down on the... I'm going to down the rest of this. I'm going to go and get another coffee, if you don't mind. I'm going to get another coffee. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to give you my honest thoughts on NXT. Because they have massive issues right now. And it's not the World Baseball Classic. They have massive issues. And a lot of you guys have been saying, I've been cutting it too much slack. BC, can you just tell us what the problems are? Because something's not clicking with NXT. Yes, I'm not going to cut it slack, as you guys say. I was giving it some time because they're trying to find themselves. But now, WrestleMania 550, this is not good. So BC is going to tell you 2 main reasons why NXT is absolutely nosediving backwards. I'm going to down the rest of this. I'm going to go get another coffee. You guys stay here through the magic of YouTube, the magic of the entertainment. I'm going to snap my fingers, and we're going to be 25 minutes into the future. So a lot of people asking, BC, how does NXT only pull 550,000 viewers last night after just 2 weeks ago it was Roadblock? And it was supposed to be that pulse that they were desperately needing, especially going in to Stand and Deliver next Saturday afternoon. And that big event, I mean, this is the time where NXT is supposed to be prospering. How did they only pull 550,000 viewers, BC? How did they only pull a .12 in the all-important 18 to 49 demo? Well, BC doesn't like to use competition as excuses or for mulligans, right? NCAA tournaments, basketball games for the NBA, NFL football games, it doesn't matter. I don't like to use that as an excuse. I feel if you're putting your best foot forward, if you're putting out your best television show imaginable, your fans will need to watch, not just want to watch. That's what happened back in the day with Nitro and Raw going head-to-head during the Monday Night Wars. They forgot about the NFL football. They didn't even care about NFL football. They started their own war within one another. And what happened is they started beating the shit out of football, guys. Because Nitro and Raw was so must-see. Every segment you had to see what Nitro was doing, what Raw was doing, and your last button, when you click back and forth, It's called the last channel button. You didn't have a third back then, so you couldn't even go to football. It was immaculate because they were putting their best shows out for their audience. It wasn't a point of, do you want to see Nitro and Raw over football, NFL, Monday Night Football? You had to. And I'm still of that old school effect where if you're putting your best foot forward, your fans are going to need to watch your product, not just be flipping back and forth. But the World Baseball Classic, no question, put a dent into last week's, what was it, 585, 595, something like that viewership, which was also not good for NXT. They lost tens of thousands of viewers coming off of Roadblock, and there was no reasoning for that. So here you are getting 550 with the head-to-head competition being the World Baseball Classic, the United States versus Japan. So, yeah, that's going to dent you. I would say, honestly, a 550, I would count that as a blessing and don't turn back. Take that 550 and run with it. But because you're going into Stand and Deliver next Saturday, you're coming off of Roadblock. This is supposed to be a peak moment, a peak season for NXT. And they're just hanging on by a thread with pretty what I call desperate numbers. And they are dangerously, drastically close to Rampage numbers, which is 400 to 500K usually. But if you give another month or two of what is happening with NXT, I wouldn't be shocked if we're talking about 500 to 525 for NXT, and then you can't dip any lower because you're going to be in the 400s. They're dangerously and desperately close to Rampage numbers, and I've been telling you for the longest, Rampage numbers, if I'm running the network, I'm kicking them right off the air. I'm not giving you a production fee. I'm not paying for that show. I'll pay for Law & Order SVU for half the price, if not lower, and get at least 200 to 300,000 viewers. I'll have the same advertisers, and I'll save a boatload of money. If I'm running a network, I would not want a Rampage. We're hearing rumblings that they want a third AEW show. You can save money, man, by just putting on a Blue Bloods, an SVU, CSI New York, Chicago Hope, Chicago Fire, and then USA Network is going to have the same problem. And I know they got that for just a fraction of the price that they pay for Monday Night Raw. USA Network is basically stealing NXT, the rights fees. But there's going to come a point where you're dropping so low, is it even worth it? Because they're still paying production fees every single week, every show, on top of what they pay WWE for rights fees. So that's a lot of numbers and just financial jargon. That's the World Baseball Classic. Do I think it dented them? No question. But there's two major flaws right now with NXT that BC saw. And I paid close attention several times Tuesday night. And this is what BC sees and has been seeing. Now, and again, I have a lot of you guys that really like NXT. You feel that through all the shows, NXT is the best full show from top to bottom. And my right-hand man on the channel, JR9 Gaming, always putting in a good word for NXT. And I see so much good. Of course, Roxanne Perez is one of my favorite female talents in the world of wrestling. She is current NXT Women's Champion, or about to take the title from her for a bunch of nonsense. I'm not going to get into that. But Roxanne Perez, still to me, damn it, is still champion. And then you have people like Braun Breaker, who is already a breakout star, no pun intended. He's going to be even bigger when he gets to the main roster. So you have a lot of good talent, and Shawn Michaels does a lot of good storyline-wise. One of the biggest, I'm going to give you two massive problems in NXT that contribute to low ratings and that make fans turn away. And casuals, they just can't get behind it. These are two main reasons. Number one, as much as we give Shawn Michaels and NXT credit for good stories and good storytelling, there's a bunch of them that are absolutely atrocious. And I mean starting with the actual filming of it. For instance, I'm going to give you a big example. This past Tuesday night, there's a bar room story going on. Now, usually I love that shit. I always ask for the bar room story. Have talent in a bar room and let's start or really jump into a story with a good old-fashioned bar room brawl, or at the very least, a bar room situation unfolding. Well, you have the Gallus boys, I believe, are already in the bar room. You have the Creed brothers, I believe, come in. They start playing darts and pool and hopscotch and twister. It's basically the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders from Monday Night Raw a year or two ago. They're basically just doing it all again. They're taking each other on in games, right? The Barroom Olympics. That's not what the Gallus, but that's like the Viking Raiders playing around, bowling and playing hopscotch and Monopoly with the Street Profits. It doesn't fit the Viking Raiders characters. The War Machine. This doesn't fit Gallus boys who are ass whoopers, right? They just beat the shit out of, who was it? Pretty Deadly last week, because you ain't going to step in their ring and not expect to get your ass whooped. You're stepping into their bar room, you're going to get your ass whooped. I don't care if they're buddies or not, or they're friends. In the filming of it, guys, before I even get to that, then they all exit after agreeing to a stand and deliver tag team title match. And when they walk out, you have Tony D'Angelo and Stax is out there. And they say, hey, we got to go back in. We got to talk about the tag team titles, you know? You can't do it without, Tony D'Angelo and Stax. Forget about stand and deliver if you ain't going to have us involved, huh? So they all go inside. And one of them goes, oh, it's going to be a long night. And they all go inside. Guys, the way it was filmed was like a really, really bad, like, D-rated television show. And the camera, everything is overly scripted. The camera angles looks like it looks like it was edited and pieced out for a full day it took to film this thing. Again, when I say overly scripted, you have to see it for yourself. There was nothing authentic to this piece. Nothing was authentic. Heavily scripted with people that just suck at line delivery. Now, if you're fans of these dudes, I hear you. There's a lot to get behind. But I am not behind this type of storytelling where there was literally over-scripted BS regurgitated off of a page, clearly. And the camera angles, every time there was a line, it would cut to the person who's going to give. It was like a really bad D-rated soap opera. If you don't know what BC's talking about, you just go like, BC, wow, it was that bad. You got to look at it yourself, man. You got to really view this for yourself. It was a barroom scene. I believe it was the Gallus boys, Creed brothers, and maybe it was Tony D'Angelo and Stax. I believe. I don't even... And it was just so over... And I saw this before. I think his name is Brooks Jensen. Or Brooke, is that two people or is that what? Just the fucking name alone. Brooks Jensen, Fallon, Kiana. I mean, this is just bad soap opera names. And they were involved in a story just like it, where it was so heavily scripted, overly produced, 19,000 angles, camera angles, because every time somebody dropped a line, you had to have a camera in their face. It was like a cheesy D-rated soap opera or cheesy D-rated television show. That is not professional wrestling, man. It has to be more authentic. It has to be more raw, no pun intended. But that is overly scripted. I don't know many wrestling fans that can put up with that type of nausea. That is the opposite of suspending disbelief and entering the wacky world of pro wrestling. That's the opposite of it, though. I can't even suspend the disbelief. It's so cheesy. And maybe it's the names, too, right? Brooks Jensen and Fallon and Kiana. And Kiana's cheating on Brooks Jensen. And Fallon's pissed or so. I don't know, man. I'm getting all the names mixed up. But it's hilarious when you think about the names. And they got him in this soap opera. And I could get behind those type of stories if it's much more real, believable, authentic. Cut all the cheesy camera cuts and the angles. Cut the over-scripted BS. Let them talk authentic, man. I don't know what they're trying to prove there, but that will turn people away in a heartbeat. The only reason it doesn't turn BC away quickly is because I'm in awe of how bad it is. It is bad. And I love barroom scenes, but to see that segment this past Tuesday, how overly produced and overly scripted and over BS'd it was, I was in awe. That's how I was watching out of just sheer how horrible it was. That's the first thing. Cut that type of shit out. Make it more authentic. These wrestlers should not be that heavily overly scripted, because there's going to come a time they're going to be in that ring on the big stage with a couple million people watching, tens of thousands in attendance, and you ain't going to have the piece of paper in front of you. That's number one. Number two, and this one is going to sting, because we all are fans of all these wrestlers. If not fans, we appreciate them. We like all of these wrestlers, right? The problem in NXT is there are so many, and this is not just for NXT. You could say this about AEW and even the main roster of WWE. There's a lot of people that just don't connect. And in NXT, I understand you're developmental, so there's going to be even more. But you do have a primetime television show on Tuesday nights. So you have that contract. You do have that primetime show. They are on national TV, which means they are subject to the same criticism that AEW or WWE main roster folk would be. There's a lot that don't connect. And even I'm gonna pump out a name here, and this is gonna make people cry, but Wes Lee. I'm just using him as an example. Much love and respect, of course, to Wes Lee. North American champion, I believe, correct? I'm just using him as an example because I did see his segment from Tuesday night, and he's in the middle of the ring, and he's cutting a promo. And I could not be more bored while listening to Wes Lee. While watching Wes Lee cut this promo, I'm thinking to myself, why would anybody give a fuck? If he's not wrestling doing cool moves, there is nothing that stands out about Wes Lee. And again, I'm just using him as an example, guys. I can go through many on the roster, but we'd be here all day trying to get you in and out in about an hour on this podcast. Wes Lee, what is special about him outside of the actual wrestling? Nada, zero. Charisma? None. He's cutting a promo and he's like, well, are you guys enjoying the NXT Open Challenges? Good, because I'm enjoying giving them, but I just stand and deliver, man. I just feel like it's going to be a big moment, And I'm like, what is he talking? What are we doing, man? How did we get here? I understand, wrestlers are different in 2023. They're not necessarily bigger, taller, bigger muscles. Okay, they're smaller. That's okay. You can be smaller, but at least have charisma, right? Amp up your volume a little bit. Amp up your character. Amp up your situation. Make people care. Edge of their seat. Oh, shit, it's Wes Lee, man. I gotta hear this. We went from back in that golden era with Hulk Hogan. Let me tell you something, brother. To the Ultimate Warrior and the Warriors. To, and they get the Macho Man. Yeah, the Macho Man. I'm going to tell you right now, Miss Elizabeth. Right? To the Attitude Era when you, what? You got your eyes locked on the eyes of the world's toughest son of a bitch, Stone Cold Steve Austin. If you smell what The Rock is cooking, rest in peace. Oh, it's true. It's damn true. You just made the list. And you can go on and on, right? When I say these words or I speak in a tone, you know who I'm talking about. You know the wrestlers. You know when they're on the microphone. They didn't just captivate you in the ring wrestling. They were on the microphone and they captivated you. Their appearance, their wardrobe, their costuming, the way they spoke, what they said. It was next level, top tier. It's what made most of all of those clips that I just played through my own reenactment, thank you. It's what made all of them larger than life. Is the term that we deem, right? The deemed term. And then you go to somebody like Wes Lee. Did you guys enjoy the North American Open Challenges lately? Good. Well, let me tell you something, man. I like doing them. And at Stand and Deliver, no matter who is the test in front of me, I'm going to conquer that test, And I'm going to make this North American champion the very best. Why would anybody remember that? And that's the problem, man. And again, people don't want to hear their, Beasley, he's an amazing wrestler, and that's what 2023 is about. Well, no, then that's the whole conversation is, why are the NXT numbers so low? Why is AEW's numbers going backwards? Why is Raw stuck below 1.8 for WrestleMania season, right? Well, everything BC has ever said about the numbers ended up coming true. Months ago, I told you that Raw has garnered such a low number during football season that when football is no longer around, they're going to have to work 10 times as harder just to dig out of that hole. I was right, guys. They're still trying to dig out of that. They can't even get 1.8 recently. for Monday Night Raw. I told you AEW was not doing anything at the start of their show to make people put the remote down. During the show, it's nothing to captivate them for a full 2 hours, and at the end of the show, they're not giving us cliffhangers. And what I tell you, I said fans are their own diehards are going to end up not watching after a while. They went down to 850s for the past month. And we'll see what today's produces. I don't see them hitting a million. Maybe. But the record, the trajectory is showing us that they lost 100,000 of their tried and true fans. My point is, what I'm saying is everything I've told you for months and even years about the ratings ends up coming true. So the discussion here is, why is NXT's ratings so low all the time? I'm telling you why. There's nobody, or very few, I should say. There's some, but a lot, most of the talent that you're seeing, there's no connection. Wes Lee is the example I'm giving because he was in this big segment with Dragon Lee coming down and making his debut, and he's going to have this big match at Stand and Deliver. So I'm using that because Wes Lee, if you take him out of the ring wrestling, you have to check off every other box. You have to make sure that your fans are captivated by you. Wes Lee is out there. He's looking like he just left a Walmart and he just got denied his last credit card. He's over the limit. So he had a whole carriage full of goods at Walmart and he got denied, right? The cashier said, "Sorry, your cards are maxed." So he had to leave the whole cart behind and he walked out of Walmart dejected. There's nothing, Wes Lee, outfit, nothing remarkable. Nothing to make you go, "Oh, fuck, this guy's larger than life." His mic work, his whole promo, absolutely average, if not less than. That might be hard to hear, but the ratings are going to go so far backwards that NXT will be taken off the air and have to go back to the WWE Network on Peacock. Maybe that'll be best for them, actually. No more pressure, and they could truly be developmental. This is a champion, and there's not a damn reason why anybody should or would care about him outside of he could do cool moves. He's a good wrestler, but you say, I think we're being harsh. Nobody is. I just said we all respect him. We all like him. He's a good dude. A damn good wrestler, actually in the ring. But there's a billion good, great wrestlers in the world today. And it seems like there's so many average wrestlers on television because all of these great wrestlers, when you look at a professional wrestler from top to bottom checking off every box, they're just average. Come on, let's do it. Let's take some of our favorites and really think about it and be truthful. Set up a Daniel Garcia, right? Let's make a line of wrestlers. Daniel Garcia, Action Andretti, Dante Martin, Wes Lee, Drew Gulak, Ricochet. And you guys can keep adding, right? A lot of good wrestlers in there, right? We respect them. We like them. We give them golf claps. We go, "This is awesome," when they all do cool sequences and flips and dives. And not one of them captivates you outside of the flips and the dives. Not one of them on the mic captive. Daniel Garcia does not captivate you on the mic. Stop it. Dante Martin, Andretti, Gulak, Ricochet for sure doesn't. Wes Lee, they don't captivate you on the mic. Their outfits, their costume, that doesn't captivate you. Nothing about them is remarkable. You know it. You damn well know it. But I don't need anybody to agree. I have the facts to prove that. The ratings are telling us that most of the people on these shows are less than average or just average at their height. I don't mean height, metro, size-wise. But at their best, they're average. That's the problem. The problem NXT has right now is the same problem AEW has in wrestling in general. There's so many talents that don't connect. None of them, when they got on a mic to sell a story, none of them could sell water to somebody that's been in hell for the last 6 years. And they somehow got out of hell. They're thirsty as fuck. And these wrestlers today couldn't even sell them a bottle of water. If they were giving it away for free, the person would be like, "Oh, there was a trick. I'm out of here." Come on, man. You've been in hell for 6 years. Just take the water. Not from you. I really studied that Wes Lee promo this past Tuesday night. I watched it live, actually. And I was like, wow, there was not one part of that that could possibly make somebody go, this dude's awesome. Oh, Wes Lee's amazing. But you see, when he's in the ring doing the moves, he's really good. That's fine. There's 1 billion plus wrestlers that are really great in the ring, wrestling. Professional wrestling is way more than that. I'm just using Wes Lee as an example, by the way. Top to bottom, NXT is filled with a lot of people that don't connect. Average AF. You put Wes Lee on the main roster and what? And what? You're telling me he's going to be that much better than Ricochet? Still to this day, Ricochet can't cut a damn promo if his life depended on it. But he can do the sequences in the ring really good. We can give him the golf claps and go, this is awesome. You guys wanted the honest truth. BC's really good at numbers. BC knows why numbers are either skyrocketing or going backwards. So BC, why is NXT's numbers so bad? 550 going into Stand and Deliver WrestleMania Weekend. BC, they're about to go to Rampage numbers. Why is that? BC coming out of Roadblock. Why is NXT going backwards? You want my thoughts, my facts on it. I hope you can take it. That's why. That's one of the main reasons. There's a lot of wrestlers on there that don't connect. Now, there's people that are going to be megastars. Braun Breaker already is. Roxy, maybe a little biased, already is. Jer9 Gaming, you got fucking Gigi. I know you're more with the JC. But Gigi, even though you could say move for move wise is the lesser of the two, I see star in her, bro. And your Alba, to my Roxy, to Jer9, your Alba, bona fide. She can rock the main roster because I know she can cut the storylines, not just the wrestling in the ring. But on top of that, Tiffany Stratton, that's the wild card. She is amazing. She screamed superstar this past Tuesday night. And she's going to be mega on the main roster. At Roadblock, when she set up the night with that promo at the beginning to set up the actual card, Tiffany Stratton was the talk of the town. She is absolutely fabulous. So there's people, there's no question, in NXT that are, if not already, they're going to be bona fide stars. But there's a lot that are just so generic. And on top of that, we have to be careful how we film storylines. Do they feel real and authentic, or are they too heavily forced, heavily scripted, heavily edited? And that's what I'm seeing with a lot of the way that they're filming these things. The Bar Room this past Tuesday night, that whole segment was so cringeworthy. I was actually warned. They got my viewership because I was in awe of how bad it was. In the Brooks Jensen, Kiana Fallon, love triangle or whatever soap opera, hey, I can be down with that, but film it more raw, more authentic. Don't be so heavily produced, heavily scripted, heavily nauseating, man. These are things that NXT has to fix. Just because you're developmental does not mean that you're not privy to the same type of criticism that we would give Dynamite or Monday Night Raw or SmackDown. You're a primetime television show. There's no reason you shouldn't be rocking with Dynamite numbers right now, bro. If you really want Wes Lee to succeed, then we got to change things up, man. Get his outfit more on point, get his mic skills on point, and let's rock out with Wes Lee. Can he turn it up, the volume, to an amplified measure? Maybe he can't. Maybe Wes Lee is average. Maybe somebody like Dan Garcia is just average. Drew Gulak, Ricochet. Maybe they're just good at the moves, but nothing else that it takes to become larger than life. I'm not saying you got to be the biggest dude to be larger than life. There's a lot of smaller dudes that got amplified. But a lot of these wrestlers, they just don't get amplified. They can't get amplified. Their promos put you to sleep, and they could not sell a story if their life depended on it. It's a shame to see NXT going backwards this close after Roadblock. 550 going into Stand and Deliver. I'm hoping they can get back to at least towards 6. The problem is when your viewers start to think that they can miss it time after time and they're not missing anything, there's no more FOMO, no more fear of missing out. And the fear then becomes, does NXT go toward 525? Then you start talking about 500K, and if you go any lower, you guys know you're at Rampage numbers. And that's the worst in the business. That's the standard, that's the lowest standard in the business, Rampage numbers. You don't want to see that with NXT, man. This is a WWE-backed primetime show. That's the rawest I can give you, man. And I hope that there's a lot of NXT viewers. My right-hand man is in NXT, tried and true. But this is coming from somebody who, the past several weeks, this past Tuesday especially, I really took a keen, closer look as to what the problems are. I saw what I like, obviously, with the Bronze and the Roxys and the Tiffany Strattons and the stories with, for instance, Shawn Michaels and Grayson Waller. I just thought that was so special. I actually like Johnny Gargano and Grayson Waller's story. I don't think that was as heavily edited. It felt much more raw. But this past week especially, I started to look at all of the negatives that are just surmounting, and it's mounting up to a point where if they don't fix it now, they could be, instead of competing with Dynamite, with Rampage is where they're going to be. And that's not where you want to be. I know that was a very hard-hitting, maybe even some would say harsh critique, but I'm trying to help HBK and the fine folks at NXT because I saw some things that are just very cringeworthy, man. You know, it's bad if BC Amplified is more of a character. BC Amplified is more interesting than somebody like Wes Lee cutting the promo. You know what I mean? That shouldn't be. Somebody like BC should be in awe, right? I entertain thousands of people. That's awesome. Now, people like BC need to be entertained by the Wes Lees and such. That's not happening. I'm in awe of how bad they are. I start to question, do they even have the amplified button? That's my talk on NXT. 550K this week. Going against the World Baseball Classic, US versus Japan. Of course, that dinged them up. But, you know, all things considered, I thought there was a chance they could hit 530, 535. Because that's, you know, maybe you take the 550 and you try to regroup for next week going into Mania. That's the go-home show for Stand and Deliver, WrestleMania Weekend. I don't know, point 12 in the demo. You know, I know they parade it as it's a developmental show, but you're still a primetime wrestling show backed by World Wrestling Entertainment. If they dip under 500,000, that's unacceptable. And that's why I'm having this conversation now. I don't want to wait until they actually do. And then everyone goes, basically, you waited this long to talk about how bad they are. No, I didn't. You know, I've been giving critiques all along the way. Because of many factors, I kind of leave this and Rampage out for most parts. I actually, Rampage, I let off the hook most, if not every week, actually. I could be very harsh on Rampage. But I put Rampage and NXT in separate categories. You know, it's Dynamite, Raw, and SmackDown that I'm going to speak the most about because there's no excuses at all for them, man. You know, Rampage is a second-tier show. Okay, whatever. NXT is developmental. Okay, whatever. I won't be so harsh. But there's still time for NXT to turn around. That's why this conversation needed to be had now. And if you're just a fan of it and you love it from top to bottom, then I understand you don't think anything needs to be changed. But if you're wondering why people are not giving it a chance or people are turning away or the ratings are so low, the demos are low, BC is trying to tell you why. I'm trying to give you a broader look into why fans are turned off by it. I hope you take it, the people in NXT, and really utilize that critique. I'm here to help you out, man. I want to see the number 6, 7, 800,000 plus, bro, over the next year to two. Be cool. And there's no reason why not. Fine unit, that's what I got for you. A masterclass of a podcast. That's why we're the ones and all the rest, they far distant twos. Think, be, live, amped always. Top guy, I'm out. Red team, go. Channel members, make sure those gold cards are activated at all times. BC saying check you later.